No one would give the eulogy at my cruel grandmother's funeral, so I volunteered and told a beautiful fake story about her. After the service, her lawyer approached me with a smile. "Congratulations," he said. "You just passed her final test." I was sitting in the front row of Riverside Funeral Home, watching my family squirm in their seats like children who'd been called to the principal's office. We were all there for the same reason, to bury my grandmother, Evelyn Walsh. But none of us wanted to be there, and we certainly didn't want to pretend we were sad about it. Evelyn had died at 84, and if I'm being honest, most of the family was relieved. She had been, by any measure, a difficult woman. Not just difficult, cruel. She wielded her wealth and her sharp tongue like weapons, cutting down anyone who disappointed her, which was pretty much everyone. I'm 28 years old, a high school English teacher, and I had always been the forgotten grandson. While my cousins fought for Grandma Evelyn's approval, and more importantly, her money, I had kept my distance. Not because I was above the family drama, but because I learned early on that getting close to her meant getting hurt. She had a gift for finding your weakest spot and pressing on it until you broke. My cousin Derek still flinched at food jokes because of the things she said about his weight. My cousin Sarah abandoned her dream of becoming an artist after Evelyn spent an entire Christmas dinner explaining why artists always ended up poor and miserable. Evelyn wasn't randomly cruel, she was strategically cruel. She dangled the promise of inheritance like a carrot, turning family gatherings into gladiatorial contests. I had opted out of that game years ago. I would stop by her massive house occasionally, sit in her formal living room, and listen to her complain. I wasn't afraid to disagree. Once, she told me, "You're the only one who doesn't want anything from me." I never knew if it was a compliment or an accusation. Now she was gone, and the funeral director, Mr. Peterson, was practically begging someone to speak. The silence was deafening. My Uncle Robert studied his shoes. My Aunt Margaret scrolled her phone. My cousins pretended to admire the flowers. Finally, Robert muttered, "She was a very strong woman." Margaret corrected, "Strong-willed." That was as generous as it got. I stood up. "I'll do it," I said. Every head turned. My aunt whispered, "Nathan, you don't have to." But I walked to the podium. I couldn't tell the truth, that she was bitter and manipulative. But I also couldn't stay silent. So, I lied. My grandmother, Evelyn Walsh, was a woman who taught me that love comes in many forms. I invented memories of baking pies with her on Sunday afternoons, of her sharing Depression-era stories about helping neighbors, of her teaching me that strength is about being someone others can count on. None of it was true. Yet as I spoke, I saw people nodding. Neighbors dabbed at their eyes. Even my family, who knew better, looked moved. She had a way of seeing potential in people, I said. She pushed us because she believed we could be more than we imagined. The biggest lie of all. But in that moment, it felt like people needed to hear it. By the end, there was applause. My aunt cried. My cousin Derek nodded. Even Mr. Peterson looked relieved. I felt guilty, but also strangely satisfied. For once, I'd given Evelyn something she'd never given anyone else, dignity. After the burial, as people dispersed, a man approached me. Silver hair, expensive suit. "Mr. Walsh," he said, extending a hand. "I'm Richard Hartwell, your grandmother's attorney." That was a beautiful eulogy, very creative. I flushed. "Thank you. I just thought someone should say something nice." "Indeed," he said, smiling. "And that's why I need to speak with you privately. Your grandmother left instructions that I meet with you." The next morning, I sat in his office as he delivered the news. "Your grandmother has left you her entire estate, house, investments, bank accounts. Approximately $2 million. I nearly choked. "That's impossible. She barely tolerated me. My uncle, my aunt, they competed for her attention." "Exactly," Hartwell interrupted. "She was testing them. She spent years running character tests. She wanted to see who would visit her without expecting anything in return. Who would show compassion when there was nothing to gain. I remembered those awkward Sunday visits. I had never thought they meant anything. But Hartwell smiled. You were the only one who treated her like a human being. That's why she chose you. He handed me a letter in Evelyn's handwriting. With trembling hands, I opened it. My dear Nathan, if you're reading this, you passed my final test. I know I was not easy to love. I was cruel, demanding, and manipulative. But I tested everyone because I had been hurt so many times I didn't know who to trust. You never asked me for anything. You listened. You visited. You respected me, even when I didn't deserve it. The money I leave you is not a reward for being my favorite, it's recognition of your character. Use it to build a life filled with kindness. And remember, the hardest people to love are often the ones who need it most. Tears blurred my vision. For the first time, I saw my grandmother differently. She hadn't been only bitter, she had been lonely. Later, while cleaning her house, I found a hidden scrapbook. Inside were clippings of my achievements, photos of me at birthdays, graduations, even candid moments I didn't remember. Captions in her handwriting, Nathan helping with dishes. Such a good boy. I sat on the floor, realizing she had been proud of me all along, but too afraid to show it. The lies I told at her funeral suddenly didn't feel like lies. They felt like the truth she wished she'd been able to live. Her greatest gift wasn't the inheritance. It was the lesson: kindness doesn't need to be earned. Compassion doesn't need to be deserved. And sometimes, the people hardest to love are the ones who need love the most. Evelyn Walsh, my cruel grandmother, turned out to be my greatest teacher.